Good morning, Awaken Takers. How are we doing? Apologies. Couple minutes late this morning. Absolutely insanity over here in the household, but we're here. We did it. We made it to Thursday. It is Thursday, September 25th. Thank you guys for joining me today. Got quite a bit to go over. Not the craziest news days, but a couple big nuggets there, and then we're going to jump right into some start sits. I'm going to give you, for each position, a couple guys that I would very much like to start this week, and a handful of guys that I would like to go ahead and have them ride the bench this week, especially coming into week 4. Right now is kind of where it's a defining moment of the fantasy football season, of the NFL season in general. And it's very much getting to that gut check time right now where, hey, if you're 0-3, this is where you start making a run. If you're 3-0, this is where you got to keep your foot on the pedal and keep it going. So your decisions this week matter. They just feel like they got a bit more weight to them. So that's why we're here. If you got any questions, go ahead and throw them in the chat. I love to go ahead and just answer on the fly with you guys for any starts, any sits, any trades, anything that you guys got going on your own teams. Please feel free to dump them in the chats with us. As always, please be sure to follow me at JOwens_FF over on Twitter, at JOwensFF over on TikTok, and be sure to follow the Profiler Now page and the Player Profiler main page over on Twitter and YouTube as well. Make sure that you are subscribed and getting the notifications, so that way every single Tuesday and Thursday that I am here, waking and taking with you guys, you can go ahead and not miss a moment of it and be here ready to go. But let's not belabor it anymore. Let's jump right into the news. We got a big piece here at the very beginning. We kind of talked, we hinted at some quarterback issues on Tuesday with Jason, and one of those issues is now completely being resolved. It's being passed on to the rookie for the New York Giants. Jackson Dart is confirmed. The week 4 starter, Russell Wilson, has been benched. There's been a lot of questions being asked of Russell Wilson of what's to come for him. Is he going to retire? What's going to happen? He's sticking around. He doesn't want to go anywhere. He is desperately trying to claw back whatever type of relevancy or legacy that he has, which it's gone. His legacy is that of a fraud, and he has done nothing but boast up Pete Carroll's Hall of Fame resume after what happened in Seattle with him, and then what's happened with Russell since. But for fantasy football, Jackson Dart will be the quarterback, and the timing just feels off. Like, I feel like they should have just ran Russ out there for one more week. I get it. Dayball's fighting for his job right now, and he does not want to tie his job and his reputation to Russell Wilson, and I don't blame him. It's a sinking ship. Both Dayball and Russ, and Dayball's looking for a lifeboat. He's looking for a life vest. He's looking for damn near anything to not drown in New York. Daniel Jones is making him look like an absolute fool right now. So he is hoping and praying that Jackson Dart can come in and bring some life to this team. But his first game is going to be against the Los Angeles Chargers, who are a fairly stout defense. They haven't been over the top. We know Khalil Mack is injured. He's on IR, so he won't be playing at all. So it's a little bit not as tough of a matchup as it could have been, but it's still not an easy matchup, especially when you look at the schedule. And I believe it's New Orleans next week. So I'm not quite sure. Like, this is just it reeks of pure desperation in New York, and that scares the living hell out of me. I don't expect much out of Dart in this first game. You got to start Neighbors, but Wandale is not someone I'm looking to start. I do think that the Giants will lean heavily on Cam Scatterbo. That's really where the Chargers have been softest, is against the run. I know they shut down Ashton Jeanty, but I think that's more of a factor of the Vegas run blocking than it is the Chargers defense. So I think that if they're going to get anything going, it's going to be on the ground. So Cam Scatterbo, just in terms of volume, great play this week. Especially because with Dart, you expect dump offs. And I mean, Scatterbo 6 for 6 last week. So that's just kind of in his wheelhouse. I think Scatterbo volumes his way to a fantasy relevance week and has the best shot on this team of getting a touchdown, in my opinion. I know Malik Neighbors is Malik Neighbors, but I'm just not that confident in Jackson Dart until I see it in an NFL game. I know he lit up preseason. He looked great. He's had some packages, but all the packages that he's been have been like gadgety, like wildcat type plays, and that's not prescriptive. That doesn't tell me anything about what Jackson Dart, the quarterback, is going to look like. So yeah, quarterback change here in New York right now. Only quarterback change we've seen so far in terms of performance. I know everyone was looking to Atlanta as well with how poor Michael Penix has been playing, but Raheem Morris, head coach, has come out and pretty much just squashed that right away. He said, look, Kirk Cousins lost the job. It's Michael Penix right now. He's had one bad game, and they're sticking with him. I think that Penix is fine for right now in terms of job security, because I think that the issues lie more within the coaching staff, more within the organization than they do on Penix. Obviously, Penix not great, not helping anything. But I think that there's just a lot of compounded issues that they're not going to look to bail on Michael Penix in his first starting season this quickly. Not Bryce Young style over in Carolina last year. Let's take a look here. We got Beast of the East 23, half-point PPR. Who should I flex? Kamara, Sutton, or Benson? Trey Benson. I'm going Trey Benson this week. He's going to get a ton of volume. Kamara has just been it. I don't want anything to do with the New Orleans Saints, honestly. It's been really ugly for them. And it's not like Kamara has been the dump-off king that everyone wanted him to. So it's not even a guaranteed floor with Kamara anymore, which that was pretty much the reason that I liked Kamara this year. Was I thought there was PPR, half PPR floor with receptions, but it just hasn't been there. Even with how much they're throwing the ball. Cortland Sutton, I think, is a solid play, but if I'm looking for something right now, we got Sutton against Cincinnati, which, I mean, not a bad play. It's either Benson or Sutton, but I'm going Sutton, I'm going Benson, because I want the running back. I want the volume of the running back position. And we've seen Benson have some flashes with the limited amount of touches that he was getting behind Connor. I think that we see more of that tonight. And really, Seattle is not that strong against the running back position. They're giving up 21 fantasy points on average a week. So I think that you can expect at least a 15-plus point game from Cedric Benson tonight. Or Trey Benson, not Cedric Benson. Holy, where is my brain? Trey Benson. Not Cedric Benson. That's an old one. That's a throwback right there. So I go Benson with this take here. Morning, MV Prof. How we doing? Good morning. Thank you for joining us today. Jumping back over to the news, a injury that has somebody already tagged as doubtful. It's going to be Terry McLaurin with a hamstring injury. He left the game on Sunday. It was about towards the third or fourth quarter that he left, but he never returned. Didn't really need to return. It was the game was in hand at that point, so I figured that was why. But the fact that he popped up so early and on Wednesday was already marked as doubtful, and I think I saw something later yesterday that said he's just not looking like he's playing. So that is a big blow to this Washington offense, who might also be without Jayden Daniels again. He's limited in practice, so really got to keep an eye on what Daniels is doing. But even if he does play, he's without his top weapon right now. So it's a little bit of a downgrade overall for Washington. A banged up Daniels, no Terry McLaurin, a three-headed monster in the backfield. And it's just one of those things where I'm not all that excited, especially going up against the Atlanta Falcons, who have a pretty decent defense right now. Their defense has looked much, much better, and they haven't been putting up the points to make games competitive and force points to go on the board. We saw 30 from Carolina last week, but a lot of that was just opportune field position from the bad offense and turnovers and all that stuff. The Carolina offense really wasn't operating that great. They didn't have to because everything was just kind of handed to them. So a little bit worried here about Washington in general. With Terry McLaurin out, obviously, you start Debo right now. We've seen him already lead this wide receiver core in targets in week 1, and we know that he's one of the favorite targets for both Jayden Daniels and Marcus Mariota. So he's a good safe option this week, who should have a good volume-based floor. And obviously, it's Debo. He can do Debo things and just pop off for a big run. I do think that the running back should see an uptick here without Terry McLaurin. They might have to lean more on the run game. But still, the only running back that I'm looking to start out of these three is Bill Krosky. And I'm looking elsewhere if I can, because it's so gross with this 30-30-30 split right now. We might see a little bit more of a different game plan here if this does stay a competitive game. Obviously, last week against the Raiders, it got out of hand pretty quickly. So it's not. I'm not completely sold yet that it's going to be a full 30-30-30. I do think that Bill starts to slowly, keyword slowly, separate himself from the other guys. And like I said, it was promising to see the 1-yard goal line dive from Bill. The one single target to any running back was to Bill. So I want to see more of that before I'm confident. But if I'm desperate already here in week 4, and I had to start one of these Washington running backs, it's Bill Krosky Merritt, and that's it. I don't really think that a Luke McCaffrey or Jalen Lane are going to do enough to warrant a roster spot on your fantasy team, especially Noah Brown missed last week. He could be back this week. He's another injured guy, but we saw Noah Brown have games last year with Jayden Daniels. So I think that if Noah Brown's active, he just kind of is that number 2 at that point. And I don't think that McLaurin, if we do hear that McLaurin's out for an extended period of time, sure, go snag a Brown, go snag a McCaffrey or a Lane, take your shot if you got a deep roster or a deep bench. But really, I'm not looking at these guys more than anything as like a deep dynasty stash in terms of like Luke McCaffrey or Jalen Lane, just in case the injury for McLaurin does linger. But really, I think that you stick with Debo. If you gotta, you go with Bill and keep an eye on the injury report for both Jayden Daniels and Noah Brown going into week 4 here. But really, it's looking kind of gross. This is looking like a really nasty game in Atlanta, where it's going to be one super beat up offense going against a good defense, and then an ugly offense going against a decent defense. So really not excited about this game for fantasy purposes at all. MV Prof, you once saw Cedric Benson live beat down your high school team and had over 200 yards. Yeah, see, Cedric Benson was a beast. Like if we had like old school Cedric Benson as the option, that's not a bad choice. But unfortunately, in the year 2025, he is not someone I'm looking to start. Definitely Trey Benson, but that's awesome, man. That's I love hearing. Just my favorite stories are the ones where it's like this professional player played against my high school, and it was just it wasn't even like real life. It was a video game. Because it's freaky when these guys are just running all over. Like they're already in like athletic prime, just running all over kids that are just trying to figure out algebra 2. So Jayden Daniels, Terry McLaurin, both dealing with injuries. Happy, thank you. Yes, Atlanta's D has had some injuries to keep an eye on. We saw it last week with Terrell being out. So definitely something to keep an eye on. But still, with how beat up Washington is, I'm hesitant. I am hesitant to invest too heavily in this game. Obviously, if Jayden Daniels plays, you start him. You can't not, with the fact that he can do it on the ground. He can do it in the air with Debo, with Noah Brown, with Zach Ertz. Like it's not like he's completely devoid of weapons. I just think that the ceiling is definitely capped unless he starts running a lot. And with a knee injury, I really feel like his ceiling is capped right now. But he's one of those guys that if he's playing, you start him. Absolutely. We have some Carolina Panthers that did pop up on the injury report as well. Jatavian Sanders, another guy who left the game last week, is doubtful for this week. So very much along the Terry McLaurin pathway. And then Teteroa McMillan also popped up on the injury report with a calf issue. Last I saw, he's expected to play. So I think this is more just load management, trying to keep him fresh for week 4. Obviously the NFL puts a beating on your body. So even as a rookie, as a young guy, he needs a rest day here to kind of recoup. But Jatavian Sanders being out and T-Mac being injured, this is another ugly matchup against New England where I don't really want any piece of anything here. Christian Gonzalez is looking to make his return this week as well for the New England Patriots. So we got a little bit of a banged up T-Mac going up against Christian Gonzalez. It's in what should be a probably low scoring game. Once again, not really excited. Obviously, the volume for T-Mac has been there, and I've been loving on him every single reaction show and everything. So I think that I would probably try to find a better option for T-Mac this week. But obviously, depending on what your roster looks like with the slew of injuries out there, if your team got hit really hard, you might not have an option. And I just want you to know it's going to be risky. It's going to be risky with T-Mac, especially if Christian Gonzalez is going. Hunter Renfrow kind of pops back into a desperation start here with Jatavian Sanders out. That's kind of they were operating in the same area of the field, the quick hits across the middle type stuff. So I don't think that he takes away from T-Mac. I think that he just kind of slips into what Jatavian Sanders was. And this team is hurting for some wide receiver help. Leggette's been awful. Coker's looking to come back from the IR, but right now it's pretty much you got Hunter Renfrow and T-Mac. So we may see a bit of a more Chuba Hubbard type game once again, but I'm just not confident overall in this this matchup again. So if I'm able to avoid any of these guys, I'm avoiding these guys. Let's see. We got John Thomas here. Tough start, sick question. Assuming healthy, Jordan Love versus Dallas or Justin Fields versus Miami. I'm going to go ahead and hold on to that one for a little bit later because one of these guys is the espresso shot for week 4. I'm sure you can guess which one it is, but with that, we're gonna save that for a little bit later as I break it down. John Thomas, you also said you sent away Chase Brown, Troy Franklin, and Wan'Dale Robinson for Cam Scatterbo and Rashid Rice. I like that trade. I feel like it's tough. Like you're bailing out on Chase Brown low, but you got two guys that are pretty much they were waiver wire pickups, and you got Cam Scatterbo, who is a workhorse back right now with a rookie quarterback, should have the volume to completely sustain himself, and Rashid Rice, who is 3 weeks away from coming back and should step right into a wide receiver 1 role. So I don't hate it. I don't hate bailing on Chase Brown, especially since you got a back that's got a floor with it. So I think I like that trade. I like that trade. And let's see here. We got Happy Hudson. You have Evans and Terry on the same team, so you're gonna have to start T-Mac. Look, if you got to start him, you got to start him. I'm just letting you know to temper expectations a little bit. He could finally have the breakout game. Obviously, no Sanders means that he could see even more volume, which is kind of crazy to say. But I am a little bit worried, especially with Christian Gonzalez coming back and just gross game conditions where it could just be a very much stuck in the mud type game here. Over under set at 43, so not expecting a whole lot. And it's in New England, so just a lot of factors here stacking up against T-Mac, but top 10 pick, number 1 wide receiver. The volume's there, so it could happen. He can make it happen. Paul Vo, we got a question here. Am I crazy to start Hunter Henry over Rashid Shaheed, Cooper Kupp, and Kevontae Turpin? I don't think you're crazy. Obviously, you're playing the touchdown roulette game, so it's either you're going to look really, really smart starting Hunter Henry over those guys, or you're just going to be feeling a little bit whatever about it because you get like 4.5 points out of him. But we've seen Drake May just latch on to Hunter Henry last week. We've seen it happen last year, so it's not the craziest thing. That's a toughie. I'd probably go Kupp over Hunter Henry. I'd probably even go Shaheed over Hunter Henry, but I don't have like a crazy argument against you because we've seen a 20+ point game out of Hunter Henry so far and not from the other guys. So just know that the floor is a lot the floor is more likely with Hunter Henry, and it's more it's in like a 4-point range right there. We got John Abruzzo. You had James Conner and CD both go down. Had that on one of my teams as well. What do you think about sending CD, Chuba, and Ricky Pearsall for Bijan and Amika? I love that. An injured, high ankle sprain injured CD Lamb and Chuba Hubbard and Ricky Pearsall to get arguably one of like a top 3 running back, and Emeka Egbuka, who gets at least 1 week where he is going to be the primary target. I get it. Chris Godwin might be coming back, but I mean, it's crazy to think that Chris Godwin steps in and gets 12 targets in his first week back from some serious injuries. I think Egbuka is the wide receiver 1 this week and is at worst a 1B, very high 2 moving forward until Mike Evans comes back. So I love that trade right there. I would do it because I'm not confident in CeeDee Lamb coming back to form following the high ankle sprain. MV prop, should I be dropping Tootin for Ollie Gordon? Tootin had 17% snaps while LeQuint had 30%. Not liking three-way committee. You got to remember, though, Bashal Tootin is injured right now. He's still in this week's practice wearing a non-contact injury. So I think that Ollie Gordon could come on, but I think that if this is like a stash and hold and you don't need a start this week with one of these two guys, I'd hold Tootin. I get it. The snap share is not great and everything, but we saw a goal line plunge from him. And like I said, this is the second week in a row now where he's been wearing a non-contact injury in practice. So it's one of those things where I think that they're just trying to protect him because they did kind of get rid of their depth when they sent Tank Bigsby away. And then Tootin gets hurt shortly after that. So I think that they're just trying to protect Tootin and their depth right now. And that's I would keep Tootin if it's a stash. Paul, are the Chiefs ever going to use Brashard Smith like they should? I mean, they're using him as what he is. He's a gadget player. He's not a full-time running back. Sure, he could see a transition into a satellite back, but with the Kansas City Chiefs offense, the only running backs that really locked in like early were the guys that were prototypical between the tackles type guys. So I think that they're using Brashard Smith exactly how they intended on using him his rookie season. I don't think that he's going to be much more than a gadgety guy this year unless things go way off the rails and they're just trying to see what they got in him for the future. But I think that you're going to see a lot of what you see right now, which is Kareem Hunt in there for 2 minutes, red zone, everything important, Kareem Hunt. Everything in the middle is going to be Isaiah Pacheco. And then you'll see some splashes of Brashard Smith. But I was never really on the Brashard Smith hype train. I never really bought into it. And we're kind of seeing what he is right now. And that's a gadgety guy. So I just don't see any long-term viability. I could see some best ball splash weeks coming out of nowhere with some of these plays, but I think we see what Brashard Smith is for at least his rookie season right now. But that's really all that I had for the news today, guys. Like I said, kind of a quiet couple days. We obviously see the Wednesday reports come in and there's a million dudes on the reports, but I didn't see anything that popped out to me that I didn't already bring up here. Everything else just kind of looks like load management type stuff. Sorry, I gotta pet the dog. He's starting to growl right there, but I didn't really see anything that stuck out that kind of had me scratching my head and being like, maybe this guy is gonna miss. It's pretty much just those four popping up and then a lot of veteran rest. But like I said, we're going to be moving into the start sits. I got a matchup that I really like this week with one of those defenses that I talked about the other show, where I think that it's just something that you definitely want to take advantage of in your start sits. In your start sit decisions and your DFS takes. And as always, I'm here to talk about Fast Draft. Use code JOwensFF for a $50 deposit match. And like I told Jason, I went with the quick 6 super slam last week, and CeeDee Lamb in my 2x spot definitely kind of crushed me. So I think I'm just going to flip back over to my drafting here with the flex 6 frenzy picks. It's the Fast Draft style where it's super quick snake type draft. I think this one still has the 3rd round reversal. So it's fun, it's different, and I like it a lot better than having to manage my salaries. But let me let the pro talk about it here, the podfather, to let you know about the Flex 6 Frenzy.
I know your sad draft season is over, but just because the NFL season starts doesn't mean the drafting stops, because Fast Draft has the Flex 6 Frenzy. You're drafting 6 guys for the Sunday slate against 9 other competitors. It's fast, it's furious, it's fun, and as with everything on Fast Draft, there are no salaries. Woo! So go to draftfaster.com, get the app, use your host promo code for a $50 deposit match. Now let's go start drafting faster.
There it is. The Flex 6 frenzy. It's honestly, it's a lot of fun. You don't have to fit any type of mold. You don't need 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, a defense, a quarterback. You just draft 6 skill position players who you think is going to be the best. You target the matchups you like the most. You could go 6 straight wide receivers. Do whatever you want. It's a blast. And that's the fun of it. You get to mix and match. It's PPR scoring, so it's high points. It's fun. You get the boosters in there, so it's just like it's different. It's so different than anything I've seen. So it gives you a little bit of an extra competitive twist on things, that you could have the same exact team as someone, but your boosters are different, and you end up coming out on top because you boosted up one guy higher than they boosted up the other guy. So it's one of my favorite things to do. Again, use code JOwensFF for a $50 deposit match. Let's see. We got another question here. I'm jumping into the starts and sits of the week. Like I said, I brought a couple guys from each position that I wanted to bring to you, but please keep your guys' start sit questions. Keep your pickup trade questions coming in, because I love to answer these on Thursday, because this is the last time I talk to you guys before a game. So let's get going. 4KT Owen, are we starting Benson or Judkins? I'm going with Benson. I know that Judkins had the great week last week. He's getting all of the volume in that backfield, but I do think that the Detroit Lions matchup is just not conducive for a Judkins week this week. I think both guys are going to be getting a ton of volume, so it's not really like, oh, I'm just taking a ceiling shot on Benson here. I think that they both have a very similar floor, but I think the pathway to a ceiling for Benson is much more clear than it is for Judkins. Unless Cleveland drags the Detroit Lions into the mud like they did with Green Bay, I think that we could see a lot more passing out of Cleveland in week 4. So I'm going Benson here over Judkins. I think that they're both strong, like good, solid floor plays, but I just like the path to Benson's ceiling a lot more than I do Judkins. Paul, another question here. Start Darnold or Bryce Young? I'm starting Darnold. I don't want to touch that New England Carolina game, and I think that I know that Arizona hasn't really been giving up a lot to the quarterback position, but I think that they've had a lot of soft matchups here. Is Will Johnson? Is he still injured? Because if he's still injured and not, I'm not quite sure. I'm not sure if the injury is going on right now with the Arizona defense, but like I said, they've had really soft matchups against quarterbacks that aren't really all that impressive. So I think that's kind of the issue. We saw them against Mac Jones. We saw them against New Orleans. Who did they play week 1? Oh my. We saw them against Carolina, Bryce Young. We saw them against New Orleans in week 1 and Mac Jones in week 3. So right now it looks like they're a good defense against quarterbacks, only giving up 13.1 fantasy points per game. But again, I think that's matchup driven. And I think that this is going to be a little bit more of a competitive game. I think that we're going to see a lot more points here. I know it's only a 43-point over-under, but again, I think that's just both defenses kind of being propped up right now as these stout defenses, when in reality, they're more middle of the pack. So I think that we could see some points here. As long as Arizona can get something going on offense, I think that we're going to see an over here on Thursday Night Football. So I'm sticking with Darnold there. Again, I don't like that Carolina New England game. It's just it's setting up for a gross matchup that I am looking to keep my hands as far away from as possible. But I am going to jump into some start sits of my own here. Starting with the quarterback position, my first start is going to be Geno Smith. We got Geno Smith. Actually going to go ahead and pop over to this because we got Skeeter in the chat with the 199. Appreciate that. We got start one: Tyreek, Ladd, Tet, or Benson half-point PPR. Ooh, that is a really good one. Oh, Ladd has been very disappointing, and he's got the Giants this week, which I like that. I also like Tyreek. I think right now it's between Tyreek and Ladd McConkey. It's between Tyreek and Ladd McConkey for me here. In half PPR, I tend to lean. I'm gonna go with Ladd here because I just think that he's got the better. Damn, you really got me with this one here, Skeeter. Skeeter got me here. You know what? I think the absolute safest play, if you're looking for just a floor play, it's gonna be Trey Benson. But I think that really the two options here that I like the most are gonna be Tyreek and Ladd McConkey. And I'm gonna go with Tyreek. I'm not so sure about this Chargers game against the Giants. I don't think that it's going to be this crazy high scoring game with Jackson Dart out there. I think that Tyreek Hill has had 2 weeks in a row now, one over 100 yards, one with a touchdown. We're kind of seeing some life out of Miami. And I mean, who knows what Jalen Waddle's going to do? But I think that I go Tyreek Hill with this one, especially being half point. If it was full point PPR, I probably lean Ladd, just because if he does have one of his Ladd games, it's going to be a ton of receptions. But I really think that with the struggles of Ladd, the injuries of Ladd, I'm going to lean Tyreek here on this one. Again, though, if you're just looking for a super safe floor, like you're not looking to hit a huge ceiling, I'd go Trey Benson just because he's getting all the work tonight. He's getting all the work tonight against Seattle, who again a decent matchup against running backs. So if you want safety, if you just want to be able to breathe a little bit easy, go Trey Benson. But if you want a big game out of someone, I'm looking at Tyreek Hill this week. Going back to you guys here in the chat before we jump back into Geno Smith here. MV Prof, Hunter Henry, TJ Hawkinson this week. This week I'm going to go TJ Hawkinson. I think he's got a really good matchup here against Pittsburgh. We saw what Hunter Henry did last week against Pittsburgh. So I feel like it's kind of prescriptive. We get Jordan Addison back this week as well, but he's going to kind of be slow rolling in. We still got Carson Wentz back there. So I think I lean Hawkinson this week. They're both in that same range, same floor range. With what we've seen, I might lean Hunter Henry for the season, just because he seems to be locked in as the main target, where we've seen Hawkinson just disappear. And like I said, with Addison coming back and McCarthy coming back in the near future, we just don't know what the target shakeout's going to be here. So Hunter Henry probably rest of season. This week specifically, though, I'm taking a shot. I'm calling my shot on TJ Hawkinson. We got Crowlays here. I'm 1-2, and I have this trade offer I feel like I got to do. I give up Lamb and Kamara in exchange for JSN and Warren. Thoughts? I like that. I think JSN right now is a top 5 wide receiver in the league, not just from what his stats say right now, but just moving forward. And we still don't know how long Lamb's going to be out, and it's a high ankle sprain. We know these guys come back from a high ankle sprain, and they're just not the same. So I think that we see CeeDee Lamb try to rush it, getting back too fast, and we just see lesser production. And right now his trade value is still high because of it's CeeDee Lamb. We haven't seen those disappointing games post comeback from the high ankle sprain. So I definitely think that you do this. Kamara's been disappointing. Warren's getting just about as much volume as Kamara is. I get it. Both offenses are gross, but I like JSN right now over Lamb, and I like Warren over Kamara. So I think you're getting the best of on both sides of this deal. Appreciate those guys. Love that. Keep them coming. And we're back to Geno Smith here. I think he's a good start. I think he's a great streaming option. Sorry about that, guys. Dog barking per usual on a Thursday. I keep trying to get him to come into the frame and go to his couch, but he's just underneath my feet as always. So we're back here. But Geno Smith, he had a great week last week, and I think he's set up in a great smash spot once again against this exploitable Chicago defense. The only reason that Chicago really held Dak in check last week was because the Lamb injury happened so early, and we've seen this happen with Patrick Mahomes. We've seen this happen with many different teams when their number one wide receiver goes out early. the game plan that they came in with is just completely out the window. So he never was able to get comfortable. He was never able to recover. So I think that with how well Geno looked last week, we see it again here against Chicago. Plus Vegas is at home. So I just think that Geno set up in another smash spot here. And honestly, we could see a great shootout here. I'm going to talk about this game a little bit later as well. But I really love this matchup. I think that we get a shootout here with Caleb Williams and Geno Smith. Here, week 4. That's what we're excited about. MV Prof. My dog's name is Finn. Finn he's a lab mix mutt, really. And he's just a little bit of a defensive guy, a little bit of a rescue. So he gets a little bit jumpy at all times with noises. We got Kyle Siebert here. Would you trade Shakir or Coleman for Brian Thomas? Yes. Yes. A million times yes. Obviously, Brian Thomas, wildly disappointing, but he's got an absurd amount of targets still. And look, I get it. Like Trevor Lawrence has looked bad when he's not targeting Parker Washington. But I do think that this offense kind of figures it out. It's a new system. It's a new everything. So it takes time for these things to mesh. And I've seen all of the stats about Trevor Lawrence's first read target, like how he doesn't look anywhere outside of his first read. And that's why defenses are keying in on Brian Thomas and taking away that first read. I get that, but it's gonna correct. The targets are there. And if you can trade Shakir, who's another guy, or Coleman, both guys very inconsistent themselves, just due to the fact that the Buffalo Bills are spreading the ball so much. If you can trade one of those guys for Brian Thomas, that's easy smash right there for me. MV Profit wouldn't be Wake and Take without a pet. You know what? We just change up. We just change up who it is, bringing in the interruptions. But we're here in the morning. It's a good wake up call. So yeah, Geno Smith, my favorite QB streamer start this week, and you guys have been asking a lot about this game. So right here, right now, I'm looking at it. I am not starting Drake May this week. He's had very good, consistent games. He's looked very solid, especially just kind of distributing the ball and rushing when he has to. He's QB6 in terms of fantasy points per game this year. But I don't like this matchup. I think that this is a very low scoring affair that we see here. There's some weather going on in Boston right now, and it's in New England. I think it's supposed to clear up for the game, but still just not potential bad conditions. And I get it. The data is slightly skewed right now because we've only had 3 weeks, and Carolina did have that absolute stinker from Penix in there. But even with Trevor Lawrence and Michael Penix, they didn't reach 10 fantasy points. And Kyler Murray, who very similar to Drake May with not the craziest weapons and a little bit of mobility, which is kind of where Drake May falls right now. He kept the Carolina defense kept Kyler Murray to 14 fantasy points. So I definitely think that Drake May's ceiling right now is about 15 fantasy points this week. And that's not what I want. The floor is much lower. The floor is 5 fantasy points like we saw from Michael Penix. So I'm really just looking to avoid this game. I get it. The New England running game isn't really strong enough for them to lean on against this weaker Carolina defense, but I don't think that we're going to see a very low scoring game here. I'm taking the under on the 43 point over under there. And I'm looking elsewhere if I got Drake May. I feel like Drake May was one of those guys that was drafted later. So a lot of people probably have a second option sitting on their bench with him. And I would be looking to that second option. MV Prof, May or Daniel Jones? Daniel Jones. I get it. Tough matchup, good defense with the Rams there, but I am definitely going Daniel Jones. He's had tough matchups and he's come out decent. He hasn't been lights out every single week, but I definitely think that he has shown a very steady floor, and he's got rushing touchdown capability. As soon as they get in that red zone, it's Jonathan Taylor or it's Daniel Jones taking it in one way or the other. So definitely like Daniel Jones over Drake May this week. Moving on to the running back position, I think we got an absolute smash start spot here for J.K. Dobbins. We saw what Jordan Mason did against Cincinnati last week, and even before that, it was Travis Etienne and Bashal Tutin running all over Cincinnati. Week 1, we can kind of throw out the window. It was the Cleveland Browns before they had Judkins. They were trying to figure out which running back they wanted to use. So I'm not really paying too much attention to that week 1 after seeing weeks 2 and 3 just be absolute rush fests against the Cincinnati Bengals. And again, without an offense to really force a shootout, because Jake Browning's not doing it. He's not gonna force a shootout here with the Denver Broncos #1 defense. Like it's not gonna happen. So J.K. Dobbins is an absolute smash, just top 10 craziness. Just an absolute smash spot here for Dobbins. I think that we just see the writings on the wall. Cincinnati is absolutely flailing. And Denver has been very much willing to run the ball, and J.K. Dobbins has been the primary running back. He's the clear #1 in the backfield, so just keep it rolling with Dobbins. He's going to have a big week. We could even see a little bit more work out of RJ Harvey this week if the game gets out of hand, and a good week there. But I think early on, it's going to be Dobbins just establishing it, and he's going to establish it well here against this terrible, terrible Cincinnati defense. Flipping over to a guy who I talked about, we should have held him earlier, about 2 weeks ago, and I regret saying that wholeheartedly because obviously I didn't know at the time that CeeDee Lamb was going to go down and Tyler Booker, their star rookie guard, was going to go down. So obviously not beating myself up too bad over saying to hold on to Javonte Williams, but I'm definitely trying to look elsewhere this week. Against the Green Bay Packers. We saw them week 1 completely shut down the Detroit Lions. We saw them week 2 not let the Washington Commanders 3 running backs do anything. Obviously, that could have been just like a little bit of game plan because Eckler went down with the Achilles, but still nothing going there. We did see last week Green Bay get chewed up by Quinshon Judkins, but I think that was just the nature of the game. The Cleveland defense kept him in it, and they were running the ball to just keep the ball out of Jordan Love's hands. I don't think that the Dallas Cowboys can do that. We know that their defense is atrocious. We know that there is no CeeDee Lamb to keep them in a close game so they could run the ball and try to play keep away with Javonte Williams. So I just think that this whole Cowboys offense is in a void, and I'm definitely sitting Javonte Williams down. Luckily for a lot of people, he was a later pick, so you should have other options that are startable over him. But Green Bay's defense has been good. They're only allowing 3.2 rushing yards per attempt. It's narrative street, but it's the Micah revenge game. He's going to be fired up. He's going to be firing up that defense to just perform and shut down this Dallas offense. And I think that they're going to absolutely do it. We saw last week against Chicago, the bad blowout. Javonte only had 10 carries and 5 targets. So 15 opportunities isn't bad, but it didn't amount to anything. And we saw Miles Sanders kind of get a little bit more run. We kind of saw them switch to more of a backup mentality. I do think that was because the game got out of hand, but who's to say this game doesn't get out of hand? Prime time, Micah returning, everything is setting up for this just to be the Cowboys getting absolutely demolished. And I'm not looking to have any part of it. Javonte was really going to be the only guy for the obviously Pickens you could probably start out of necessity, but really I'm not looking anywhere on this Dallas team for a spark on my fantasy team. MV Prof, Bo Nix or Caleb Williams this week. Don't apologize for being in too many leagues. Don't apologize for the questions. I love them. Keep them coming. Bo Nix or Caleb Williams. I think I'm going to go. That feels crazy to say, but I'm going to go Caleb this week. I think that, again, I think Bo Nix could have a great game against Cincinnati defense, but I mean, we also know that they're not going to have to pass the ball. They're not going to have to pass the ball against Cincinnati. It's really, I think that Caleb is just safer, and I think his floor is higher right now. Bo Nix has not looked good at all, and we got Caleb Williams in a good matchup in what I think is the sneakiest shootout of the entire week. I guess it's not that sneaky if it's a 48-point over under, but I'm going Caleb Williams again. I think that he's got some confidence, he's got some momentum rolling, and he's going against a defense that isn't that strong. We've seen other quarterbacks pick apart Las Vegas, and I think that we just kind of see Chicago get a little bit of a head of steam going here on offense. So I'm leaning Caleb against those two. We got Joe Jam. Howdy. How you doing? We got Xavier Worthy or JMO in the wide receiver 2 spot, full PPR. I really don't like that question. If Xavier Worthy is full participant, I probably lean him. I think this is a game that Kansas City is going to have to score in. And I think that, we've seen it. Tyquan Thornton got 9 targets last week. They are desperate for their primary weapons to come back. So if Xavier Worthy's out there, I think that he's just the safer play, especially in a PPR league. We've seen JMO multiple weeks in a row now here just disappoint fantasy managers with just like he had the one blow up game against Chicago. That's Chicago. And he only did that with 4 targets and 2 receptions. He hasn't gotten over 5 targets this week. And so I think that with the matchup, with everything, I'm going Xavier Worthy there. MV Prof, it's funny that you asked that because that was my last running back and I'm jumping into wide receiver now. Very much a fan of Matthew Golden this week. I think that it's probably the most obvious, like, breakout, showing the world what he is rookie game that we could possibly have. But the Cowboys are just, I said it before with Javonte, they're an absolute disaster on defense. They're a disaster right now on offense. And I do think that early on in the game, we're going to see Golden get his. We've seen his snaps go up every single week. He started 49%, week 2, 61%, week 3, 70%. Routes went up from 55% up to 70%, up to 80% last week. Jayden Reed's still on IR. And like, I really think that Green Bay is going to want to come out and put on a show after the embarrassment of losing to the Cleveland Browns last week and just having nothing on offense. And I think that, we saw it with the Chicago Bears. If you need to get right on offense, go play the Dallas Cowboys, especially the passing offense. Go play the Dallas Cowboys. We could see Jordan Love absolutely sling the ball. I don't think they're going to have to, but we could absolutely see it. Again, I think that they want to get back on track. So I think Matthew Golden, huge smash spot right now. Only thing that's stopping him is if the Green Bay Packers go up big and just pull the plug on the offense and just start feeding Emmanuel Wilson, Josh Jacobs, just run the clock, get out of there as quick as they can type deal. Joe Jam, coming back to your question, Worthy, JMO, or Jordan Addison? I'm sticking with Worthy. I don't trust Addison first game back with Carson Wentz right now. I think that Carson Wentz is going to try to lock on to his number 1 guy, Justin Jefferson. And it could just also be a running Jordan Mason game again. So for safety, I'm going Xavier Worthy because he's still got the ceiling. He's still an explosive player. He's got some shoulder issues right now. He's got some mobility issues catching the ball, just not with his legs. So if he can catch the ball, Xavier Worthy's going to go. Kyle Siebert, is Shakir for Brian Thomas a fair trade? I wouldn't say that's a fair trade. I don't think anyone would take that there. But if you can, go for it. Why not? Why not see if the Brian Thomas manager is absolutely reeling right now and make the shot for it? Worst they do is say no, and you come back and say, okay, what do you want me to add to get there? And then you go from there. So I think give it a shot. Paul, do I think that Bill will be stuck in a running back by committee or takeover later in the season? I don't think that he's going to be a full takeover, like bell cow, 70% running back this season. I think that we could see it shift a little bit more to be like a 50, 30, 20 type deal or something like that moving on later in the season. I don't think we're going to see it anytime soon. I think we're going to slowly start to see, especially if he can start putting together some games here, we're going to slowly start to see everything kind of uptick here. But until then, he's just kind of a hold, stash, and wait. For me, at least. Obviously, the depth of the league, the depth of the rosters changes it, but I'm just trying to stash and hold right now on Bill. Forever Mighty, we got Pickens, Flowers, or Keenan Allen at the flex. I think I go back to Flowers on this. I know Pickens is in the number one chair right now, but again, I don't like the matchup. I don't like the way the offense looks right now. And I mean, one bad game from Flowers does not constitute a full runaway for me. I think that I think Kansas City, Baltimore, we could see a high scoring game. It's one of the highest over unders right now at 48.5. So I think that we're going to see some points here. It's both teams are 1-2 right now. Both very possible Super Bowl contenders at 1-2 right now. So they're both getting a little bit not desperate, but they would like a win, especially this kind of win. And I think that Zay Flowers gets it going again this week. Detroit kind of had a plan to just take Flowers away, and it seemed to have worked. If KC does that, great, but I just think that we see Baltimore come back swinging a little bit harder after losing on Monday night this past week. So I'm going Zay Flowers there. KJ, you need some help at wide receiver. You're down CD, Jennings, and now Adams on the injury report. Who is a better play based off of matchup? Wan'Dale Robinson, Tyquan Thornton, or Demarcus Robinson? Tyquan Thornton out of those three would be who I go. I'm not overly worried about Adams on the injury report right now, unless I missed something. I think that Adams is just getting his rest day. Obviously, like there's going to be bumps and bruises and injuries that have him there, but I don't think you're going to have an issue with Adams. I hope you don't have to actually make this decision. And Jennings and Adams both play, but if you do have to pick from one of these three guys, it's Tyquan Thornton for me, even with Xavier Worthy coming back. Any concern about Neighbors this week or more hope than with Wilson? I think we're in the same boat this first week with Jackson Dart. I think that we could see more consistent volume. It's not just going to be the hope and the prayer moon ball to Neighbors that we see, but I think they will try. They're going to tell Dart, like, look, if you're throwing the ball, look at Neighbors. And that's a good plan. And I think that we could see, like I said, I think we could see a good PPR game, but I'm not looking for a big ceiling game out of Neighbors this week. Happy Hudson, full PPR, Dobbs, Tillman, or Trey Tucker. Wow. Oh, I think I go Trey Tucker there. I get it. It's not just because of the 3 touchdown week. It's because of the 17 targets the past 2 weeks. Cedric Tillman is my number 2 there. So I'd rank them Tucker, Tillman, Dobbs. We've seen, last week against Green Bay, Tillman only got three targets. He did see 8 and 7 the 2 prior weeks in games where they're having to pass the ball. And I think they're going to have to do that against Detroit. So Tillman is on the injury report. You're right. Yeah, I'm going Trey Tucker there. It's the safest. It's the safest out of those 3, especially full PPR. Like I said, 17 targets for Trey Tucker the past 2 weeks in a game where we should see a lot of passing once again. I think we see a shootout here, Chicago, Las Vegas. So I'm sticking to that. I'm using that as my tiebreaker for Trey Tucker. If Cedric Tillman does play, I think he does have a solid game against Detroit, out of necessity. But I'm not looking to bank on that when I got guaranteed targets in Trey Tucker. Moving on to my wide receiver sit of the week. It's going to be DK Metcalf. I think that he is an absolute sit. I get it. He is the one on Pittsburgh, but very similar to New Orleans, very similar to Carolina right now. Does that mean anything? I don't think it does this week. Minnesota, great defense. But the way that we've seen Minnesota get points scored on them is on the ground. And we know that Pittsburgh has no problem trying to run the ball, play defense. Their defense hasn't allowed them to really do that much. But if DK Metcalf doesn't score a touchdown this week, I think you're going to be severely disappointed. I get it. He is the one on this offense, but still looking at this low volume team, he only has a 21% target share. Minnesota has been shutting down wide receivers because quarterbacks don't have the time to look outside. Minnesota is another one of those teams where maybe they benefit from the fact that they haven't played good quarterbacks yet, but are we saying that Aaron Rodgers is still elite, or is he just kind of okay now? I'm leaning towards the latter, especially with minimal mobility at his age. I think that it's going to be tough. like I said, only 21% target share, which is above 20%. Good, not great. Good, not great. But it's a low volume passing team. He only has 17 targets, number 43 on the team or in the NFL, and they're not even good targets. They're not fantasy friendly targets. He has a 6.3 ADOT, average depth of target, number 85 in the NFL right now, and only has 107 air yards, number 71 in the NFL. He is not getting anything down the field. If he's not breaking a tackle and running, he's not scoring you fantasy points. Or if he doesn't catch a touchdown, he's not scoring you fantasy points. And I'm not trying to bank on that right now. I get it. The name, the number one wide receiver chair. I don't care right now. I'm sitting DK Metcalf wherever I can. I don't have him really anywhere other than Dynasty. So not really an issue for me this year. We got Jonathan Santiago, full PPR, Tyreek or Sutton, 1 point for first downs. Tyreek Hill for me there. I definitely see the Denver game being a run-heavy game. And I think that we've seen Tyreek put together 2 solid weeks with, like I said, one week 2 over 100 yards, week 3 with a touchdown. I think we just kind of start to see that come back together as he gets more time to get back into the fold of Miami after the rough offseason. I do have an extra wide receiver start this week because I love Quentin Johnston this year. Just keep it going with QJ. Go right back to him. I don't care. He's been getting the targets. The Giants have allowed a top 17 wide receiver every single week, including 2 in week 2, which was Lamb and Pickens. And they're giving up 36.4 fantasy points per game to the wide receiver position. So I think that we see what we've been seeing out of the Chargers, where at least 2 of QJ, Ladd, and Keenan have a great week. And QJ was second in targets on the entire team last week, and Ladd McConkey had a bicep injury, so we don't know where he's quite at anymore. But I think the floor is here with QJ, and he's got the weekly boom potential. I mean, I said it last week. He's doing it in all phases. He's all over the place. He's amazing. He's top 10 in air yards. He's top 10 in red zone targets. He's top 10 in yak. The breakout with QJ is happening. It's late, but it's here. He's doing it all. He's doing the deep balls. He's in the red zone. He's a primary target for Herbert, and he can take a screen. He can take a quick slant. He can take it to the house. And right now, New York is looking for. They're flailing once again. Here we are, week 4, and the New York Giants are flailing again. And I don't think that they get any reprieve here in week 4 against the Chargers. So I'm going right back to Quentin Johnston here. I'm going to flip over to the tight end position real quick. But before that, it looks like we have another question here. Or a couple questions. 16-team PPR from Joe Jam. Trade my Henderson and Worthy for Neighbors. You would be left with Gibbs, Benson, Marks, Monangai at running back, Pearsall, Rice, Coleman at wide receiver. Daniels and Warren round out the lineup. Let's see. Trade your Henderson and Worthy for Neighbors. I like that. I like that a lot. I like Henderson, and obviously it leaves you a little bit thin at running back, but I think with Gibbs and Benson, you have weekly floor. Obviously, when it comes to bye weeks, you'll have to hope that Marks and Monangai have a little bit more of a role at that point to kind of plug for you. But I think that's a good trade. I like that for you there. You would be losing the depth at running back, but it's not like Henderson's doing anything. So you're kind of waiting and seeing with him anyway. MV Prof stacked in a 10-man league. Start out 3 out of Neighbors, Odunze, Adams, and Wilson. Oh God, how is that a 10-team league? What did your league mates do? Wow. I mean, I don't want to bench Adams, but that's probably who I'm benching. I think I'm benching Adams out of those 3. I'm starting Neighbors, Odunze, and Wilson. I don't like it. I don't feel confident in it, but I just think that matchup wise, and I mean, all of these guys are target hogs. You can't bench Neighbors. I get it. We're scared off of Neighbors with Dart right now, but you can't bench them. So I'm probably sitting Adams right now. Oh God, that feels gross to say. Jonathan Santiago, Jets defense versus Miami, or Buffalo versus New Orleans. Buffalo. Easy. The Smitty, start 2, Benson, Monty, or Henderson. I'm starting Benson and Monty. I know Monty gets the really gross matchup against Cleveland, who have just absolutely shut down every grinder type back that they have faced, but I don't trust Henderson quite yet. I think that this would be a blow up game. So if you need a home run swing and you don't like the Monty matchup, you can go Henderson, but I'm not. I'm going Benson and Monty out of those 3. Boardman traded away Turpin and Johnson for Justin Jefferson. You get points for punt returns. Was that a good trade or no? I still think it's a good trade. I think Justin Jefferson is the elite wide receiver that he is, and he's been coming back from an injury, and he's dealing with an injured quarterback situation too. I think that you're going to see Justin Jefferson get back to what you expect from him. I love Johnston and Turpin punt return yards, sure, but at the end of the day, you don't want to have to be banking on punt return yards. I'd go with the elite wide receiver there. Like I said, love Johnston. He's not Justin Jefferson. MV Profit, solid draft Odunze fell. I see that. That's beautiful, especially with the breakout happening. Miles Young, start Benson or Warren, full PPR Benson. I know Warren's got the volume too, but I think that Benson is just it's not a much better offense, but it's a better offense. So I'm going Benson there. He's got the explosiveness, and it's exclusively his backfield right now. But jumping back over to the tight ends here, like I said earlier, I like TJ Hawkinson this week. This Pittsburgh Steelers team is giving up points against the tight end position, where they're giving up 15.8 fantasy points per week against the tight end position, and they haven't really played anyone big. I get it; it's skewed very much because of the Hunter Henry big 2 touchdown game, but I think that's very much in line for TJ Hawkinson here. If especially early on, like we could just see Hawk carving up the middle of this offense. So especially with Wentz, the backup quarterback in there. So not scared off of that. I like TJ Hawkinson. He got 6 targets last week and it was a blowout win. And so I just think I'm calling it right now. My call for this game, TJ Hawkinson scores a touchdown and you're happy with it. He's top 5 in red zone target percentage among all tight ends. So it's coming. He's there right now. And this is a smash matchup. Another tight end that's a little bit lower, a little bit more on the fringier side is Harold Fannin Jr. I really like him this week. Again, I think Detroit forces Cleveland to pass the ball 45 times. And I think Fannin is a good skill set to exploit the Detroit Lions a little bit. We saw Mark Andrews blow up against them. And I get it. There was a garbage time 20+ yard touchdown in there for Mark Andrews that might or might not happen for Fannin here. But I just think that you follow the targets and Fannin's just been consistently doing it. I know Njoku was better last week, but I'm going right back to Fannin this week. I think that he's just got a little bit more potential here with what we've seen on the season as a whole. And I think that the game plan is going to be very different for Cleveland, where it was Judkins last week. I think that with the Lions putting up points, we're going to have to see them go to the air. Got a couple more questions before I get to the espresso shot of week 4. If Jennings doesn't play, would you start Cavante Turpin? My league gives points on punt returns. I would. I mean, he's probably going to get some wide receiver targets in there as well out of necessity. And it's tough to want to play Turpin even in points per. I don't know who else you have, but in a points per return league, because how often are the Dallas Cowboys going to make teams punt? I'm not confident in that. I'm not confident in that at all. So a little bit scared off of that. If it's kick return points too, on all return yards. Okay, so maybe because of the new rule, he could actually have like 200 kick return yards just because they're receiving the ball so many times. So I probably, but again, I don't really know who else you got there. Alex Beatty, Dynasty League, traded Juwan Johnson for Ollie Gordon. Good move. It depends on what your team. If you're looking to rebuild, I think it's a good move. I think Ollie Gordon is going to see his value increase as we do with running backs, especially. And I think Juwan Johnson is probably at his peak right now. I would have probably tried to get a little bit more. a little bit more out of it, but I don't hate it on a rebuild. What's Juwan Johnson doing for you a year from now? Probably not much. Quincy Davis, 10-man, 3-0, need 2 running. Oh, wow. Here we go. 2 running back, 2 wide receiver, 2 flex, QB. Jayden Daniels, obviously, QB. Tight end, Tucker Kraft, obviously. Christian McCaffrey, obvious start there. HN, obvious start there. Benson is probably one of my flexes. We got Sutton. Terry's not playing this week. So Sutton, Igbuka, Pearsall, Wilson, Higgins, Rice on the bench. You need to drop 1 for a kicker. Ew. You can't move. Can you move Terry McLaurin to the IR spot once they mark him out and pick up a kicker at that point? Because that's what I would do. I don't want to drop any of these guys. Is Higgins T Higgins? If that's T Higgins, dude, what the hell what the hell is this league? I'm really not looking to drop any of these guys. If you can move someone to the IR spot, I would do that, but I really don't. I don't even got good advice for you on who to drop there. Try to make a trade. Try to make a 2 for 1 trade here at the last second, because that's crazy. I'm sorry, I don't feel confident telling you to drop any of those guys. Yeah, T Higgins, I'm not dropping any of those guys. If you can move, if you got to make a move with a trade, because dropping those guys is just, you can't do that. We got Chef back in here, 1 and 2, made a crap ton of moves. What do I do? Half PPR, 10-man, Hurts, Nico, Jamar, Genty, HN, K9, Warren, DJ Moore, Debo, Monty. What do you mean? What do you do? Who do you start? We're starting Hurts. You're starting Nico. You're starting Jamar Chase. You can't bench those guys. You're starting Genty. You're starting HN. You can't bench those guys. If we're looking at a flex, I'm starting K9 or Debo. Yeah, that's where I would go. I don't know how many flexes. I don't know what the roster looks like, but that's what I would do. I did want to talk about my favorite matchup of the week as well. We got Chicago versus Las Vegas. I think that is a fairly even matchup in terms of offenses and defenses. You got to start your Odunze Bowers, Jacoby Myers. I'm also comfortable flexing Trey Tucker and DJ Moore if you need to. And I don't hate Cole Kmet as a desperation tight end play. I am calling a Hampton-level Janty resurgence game. I think that we could see Janty get the workload he needs, and we could see his first 100-yard rushing game here. I get it. Offensive line, bad. Chicago defense, run defense, also bad. How do you improve your team? I think your team's in a decent spot right now. It's tough because Nico's not performing. Jamar Chase isn't performing. Genty isn't performing, but you have a solid team. It's just fantasy football, man. I'm sorry. I'm in a similar situation with an 0-3 team, and it's just like the guys are there. It's just we need everything to line up and just you got to get a little bit of luck right now. But I like the team if this is where you're at now. I talked about it a little bit earlier when I got asked the question, but my espresso shot. Oh, where did it go? What? Where's it at? Hello. Oh, it's just not showing up on my studio, but it's showing up there. Okay. So espresso shot and it's just going to flash for a couple times. The espresso shot for week 4. I'm calling it now. Justin Fields in primetime versus Miami. He's QB 20 in the rankings right now. I think that's purely out of speculation that he might not play. But if you don't think he's going to play, don't rank him. So the fact that he's QB 20 right now, that's absurd. If he does play, if he clears the concussion protocol, which I saw whispers that there's beats out there that there will be an update today that he is cleared. Nothing official, so don't come at me if it doesn't happen. But we're supposed to get an update today, one way or the other, and I think he's going to be cleared here soon. And we know that Miami is not a good defense. Especially with mobile quarterbacks. So I think we get a sneaky shootout here. Over under set at 45, but both teams are giving up 30 points per game. And I think that the Miami offense is starting to get it going. We've seen it now. And I think that Justin Fields is good for this New York Jets offense that performed pretty well last week still. So I'm going with it. I think Justin Fields is a QB1 this week. I think he's a top 10 quarterback this week. Hell, I'll go top 10. I've been going kind of crazy with the espresso shots. I want to get a point on the board here. So top 10 from Justin Fields. against Miami on Monday Night Football. That is the Week 4 Espresso Shot. Count it, bank it, book it. But that is all that I got for you guys this week. I appreciate all of the questions. You guys really keep this show chugging along with all of the start sits, with all of the questions, with all the roster trades. I love it. I appreciate it. I do my best. I apologize on those really big ones, guys. When you're asking me to fill out a full lineup for you, it's really tough. Really tough to kind of parse that in the split second. So I'm trying my best on those ones, but appreciate you guys as always. I will be back next week. It looks like I got one more sneaking in here. Sam, you got Mason, Kamara, Judkins, Benson, Hubbard, and Pollard. Bench 2. Who are you benching? I'm benching Pollard, and part of me wants to say bench Kamara too. What's the matchup there with New Orleans again? New Orleans against Buffalo. I'm benching Pollard. Benching Pollard and Kamara there. And last one from Quincy here. Need one flex. Bill, Ollie Gordon, Tillman, Mooney, T. Higgins, or Travis Hunter. You got to stick with T. Higgins. It's gross. It's yucky. I get it, but you got to stick with them. He's the talented guy, and they're going to have to pass the ball here. But that's all I got, guys. Thank you so much, as always, for joining. I gotta jump here, but appreciate you. Be sure to follow me at @JOwens_FF on Twitter, at @JOwensFF on TikTok. Be sure to follow the Profiler Now YouTube page and Twitter to keep up with everything. And I will catch you guys on Tuesday to see if I led you astray or if I led you to a W. Catch you guys next time.
From the Podfather to you, I deeply appreciate you tuning in. And many ask, what can I do? What can I do to help support the hosts, the research they do, the production costs? Go to PlayerProfiler.com, Dynasty Deluxe, World Famous Draft Kit, Rankings, DFS Dominator, and of course, Data Analysis. Subscribe to any one of those, and you support all of us and take Player Profiler to the moon.